So moving on to part 2 of this video, I'd like to point your attention here to the secondary basement suite monthly rent. So obviously the more rent you have, the higher your NPV is going to be. But I kind of got this little hook here and then it plateaus. That's for the secondary basement suite. The reason is for 3 bedrooms, I have a maximum rent that I can charge, which is $10.37 per month. It's basically a call option that I'm selling. So this here is actually the formation of a call option. It goes up to a point and then I just have a steady amount. So that's why that there looks steady. These here are called spark charts right here. They're not super useful in terms of figuring out exactly what's going on, but they are useful in kind of figuring out the nature of the relationship. For example, construction rentals. So the lower this number here, the lower the cost of my rentals initially, the higher my NPV is going to be. So it just kind of helps you with the nature of that relationship. So let's go through a couple analyses here. So upstairs monthly rent, let's say instead I make the upstairs maybe a bit of a boarding house. And I rent out the garage separately. Let's say I rent out all 3 rooms upstairs, $500 a piece. So let's put in $1,500 there and look what happens to net present value and average annual before tax cash flow. Just churning a bit here. So you can see huge increase in net present value, huge increase in cash flow every month. So quite significant. So let's just undo that. Okay, let's say construction rentals. Let's say I go through and I take a look at everything I was going to do for construction, and there's no point going so overboard on the top. I'm spending about 25 grand doing work on the top floor. Let's say I only actually really need to put in, I don't know, say 5,000. So I'm only $30,000 in for all the renovations. Let's take a look now. Huge increase in NPV. But if I'm doing that, the increased property value is probably going to be a little bit smaller. So let's say instead I get about $30,000 lift increased property value. So NPV still significantly increased. Okay, let's just undo both of those. So number of months initially unrentable. So this is a bit of a hiccup with the Cornerstone and even making any suites legal. There's almost no difference between Cornerstone and creating a legal suite. You're pretty much going to end up suffering in any way. Construction renos, okay, that just probably hasn't updated yet. Let's try to get it to update. That's okay. All right, so number of months initially unrentable. Let's say it takes 6 months to get me to rent this place. Okay, so NPV goes slightly negative. All right, so let's go back to 3.5. I think that's probably more likely. So vacancy rate at 2%. I don't know. Let's say it goes up to 5%, long-term, 10-year vacancy rate. Not a huge effect on NPV as we would expect from the spider chart. And you can do that for all of these variables here. Liquidation costs. This is basically realtor fees if I got to do anything to fix up the place. This is an interesting one. This is Cornerstone approved funding. So you could actually punch in the number of 0 here, but it's already actually over here. So let's say I can't get any Cornerstone funding. I'm going to have an NPV of about negative 20 grand. You can see right from there. That's it with no Cornerstone funding. So with the best, most Cornerstone funding I could possibly get. I'm going to be way out there. Okay, so let's run a few other scenario analysis. So scenario analysis, this is basically change a whole bunch of things and see what happens to NPV. So qualifying labor, basically with Cornerstone, they want me to hire people who aren't myself, and they're only going to fund 50% of the work I do if it's not me. But let's say that my labor does actually qualify. I want to see what it does to NPV. Okay, so it goes up to almost $1,000, so pretty significant. So number of legal bedrooms. So the amount of rent that I can charge is based on the number of legal bedrooms that Cornerstone applies. So I have 2 bedrooms downstairs. I might have a third if they're going to accept if I put a little armoire in that closet, which increases the rent from about $900 to $1,000, so significant. Let's say they only approve 2 bedrooms. What does my NPV do? Again, it doesn't sink me. It goes down a little bit, slightly negative, but I'm still probably making 16% minimum. Okay, and I'm going to stop this video, and then we're going to play with some of these more advanced scenario analysis variables.